So with the pandemic, a lot of organizations, a lot of people have felt this need to constrict, right? And the human body does this too when there's injury or illness, and it's like a natural reaction to crisis and change and all of that. But when it comes to global business development, I feel that organizations that try to constrict too much that's not a great idea. What's your take on that?
Well, I think, like you said, during the pandemic, and even still now, as we start to globally, in many ways, start to re-enter the real world, this view of we can only do one thing at a time, I think created a lot of consternation about maybe we won't do that, or maybe we shouldn't look at this. But the world economics is pretty complex. Companies are complex. People are complex. Likewise, business development is complex. And it got lost, and maybe rightly so, because we were trying to save lives and continue to try to save lives during the entire pandemic period. And so I think that actually now is the best time for business development of any kind, because a lot of the ground rules have changed, whether it's on how products are made, delivered, sourced. The customer's view of certain products have dramatically changed over the last 12 months. So the opportunities are endless for companies looking globally at business development. Now, when we talk about business development, a lot of times people get confused at meaning, well, it means we'll get more sales next quarter or 2 quarters from now or next fiscal year. Our view, especially with clients, is when we talk about business development, we're talking about relationship building and really doing some forensics and some really detective work of, okay, what else can this thing do? Often I'm struck by going through plants, manufacturing facilities, and I'll ask, either the president, the owner, the product manager walking through, say, oh, this is kind of nice. What does this thing do? And they describe it. And then I'll ask like my $1 million, my 1,000 questions of, well, can it do this? And they go, I don't know. Well, can it do this? I don't know. Now, part of this is exposure. We all get into this narrow funnel of this is what I know, here's what I do, as opposed to asking them questions, well, why not? Could it run and skip at the same time? Could it jump and do somersaults? What would happen if you implanted this with this or connected this device to this device? Now you've got something else. And what I found the most amazing is when I've been able to challenge the leaders in those companies, they're like, duh, why didn't we think of this? Why? It's like, well, and it's no strike against anybody. It's just because they get narrow into their business. They've got quarterly results they have to produce and all the on that goes on. And so business development is really, and again, by the way, business development isn't just blue skies, just throwing seed and spaghetti, your favorite thing to call it, throw spaghetti in the wall, see what sticks. It's not that either, but it's really a very thoughtful, very detailed way of looking at, well, what else can this thing do? What other industries can it work? Because here's the other thing that I find interesting, that if you look at healthcare, aerospace, some of these other industries, machining, they're all literally the same. I mean, they use similar components, they use pumps, they use gears, they use switches, they use this. And, well, if you're in that market to begin with, it didn't take a brain surgeon to figure out maybe these things could be used somewhere else. What we found a lot of times recently, even again, this was pre-pandemic, a lot of technology in automotive had a direct application in healthcare, either in healthcare devices, what incubators were trying to create and go, a lot of times people in these incubators who are trying to figure out, wow, can we create this? They look for a certain part that, boy, if we had this, we could make this other innovation, fly. And then you come to them and go, well, I know this, they put these parts in cars or an automotive industry some way. And they go, boy, I didn't know that. and not that they should or shouldn't have known it. So I go back to your initial question of saying, well, what does business development look like? It's wide open now. I think that it is endless for the companies that are willing to spend the energy, the time, the resources to put real analytics behind. Okay, we have this technology. What else can it do? I mean, too often companies look at what they have and they go, how do I market this some other market? It's a wrong approach, especially now with pandemic. The real question is the technology that we have to build this, what else can we build in other industries? Because that's what companies are looking for. I can't tell you how many times we've had healthcare companies who are struggling with getting this thing that they've thought of, that this innovative tool, this part, this component that could certainly help healthcare, and yet they're missing some mechanical part, some electronic component. They just don't know where to look for it, and they keep saying, "Well, it'll never work." And the electronic manufacturer is not looking over on the other side, going, "Wonder what they're working on." That the most amazing thing is when you put an automotive engineer, a real good engineer, side by side with a healthcare engineer, it's amazing what they come up with. They go, "Oh my God, you have pumps and things in cars, you have pumps and things in healthcare. So how do you blend the best of everything?" I mean, if we can get stuff to Mars, why can't we figure out some of these other things? And that's what makes business development good. When people who are leading the business development section, don't think sales, think about innovation, think about process, think about their technology. One of the last questions I always ask manufacturers is, don't tell me what you make. I mean, I can look and see what it is. Tell me what the process is and what your technology is, because that's really the most important thing for business development, not what you're currently making, but what you could be making.
So what you're saying is using business development just as a sales arm, where you're just finding more customers for the same product used in the same way. That's underutilizing the idea of business development. That is really about from your perspective, it's really about finding new ways of or new connections, new relationships with either individuals or other organizations using the product or the process to make different products in new ways.
Right.
So connecting dots that aren't currently connected.
Yeah, I think when companies, like you said, the first phase, it's a lose-lose deal all the time. When they think business development, but they're really thinking sales, they will lose every time. I mean, they might win one order, two orders, but it won't matter because they'll be stuck in the same position 1 quarter, 3 quarters, another year down the road going, God, what do we do with this thing? As opposed to saying, well, we've got this technology that we make these things. Can we make them this way or do it this way or add this to it? I mean, it's amazing, again, what you can, if you ask the right questions, business development basically is about asking the right questions and asking thousands of them over and over again, not to customers, but really to yourself.
And so during the pandemic, a lot of companies have been, trying to keep everything in-house, in country, all of that. But the way that you're describing it, it actually is more important to do business development in times like this, where it's not necessarily about thinking about other countries or other industries or whatever, but it's all about getting those new ideas of how you can utilize your current product or process in new ways.
Absolutely. I mean, you never know when that innovative platform is going to show up or where it comes from or how it gets created. And that's the key. Again, people use business development like they whip supply chain. Well, let's make more sales. Well, that will hopefully happen. But the business development of the future post-pandemic is about look everywhere and look at anything because you never know what it could do. That doesn't mean, by the way, you waste your time.
That's what I was going to ask you. How do you focus? So obviously you can get ideas from anywhere and anything, but how would you focus? How would you best use your time if you were in business development working with an organization?
Well, the one question we always ask that rarely do we get an immediate answer is, what's your core competency? What's your core technology? By the way, you can ask that people who are recruiters. The good ones will always ask potential candidates, well, what do you, what, not so much what have you done, but what do you do? What's your core? And companies struggle with this all the time. And anytime I've taken on a new client, it's like, tell me first what you think your core competency is. When they can't define it, then we have a methodology and a process where we help walk them through very easily, well, maybe not so easily, because quite often they can't, they go, well, what do you mean? I go, well, if you had to really zero in on what your core competency, your organizational core competency is, what is it? And until they can define it, then they're just scattered all over the place around the world, like you said, just looking for anything, and that doesn't help anybody. But when they know what their core competency is, they can actually then, the good ones I've seen, can actually then go around globally and find those little nuggets of innovation to help support or them being supportive of that innovative platform anywhere in the world. But until they get to that first answer, Nicole, they're just wasting their time. One more thing on business development is that business development for anything, any company, is not unidimensional. Meaning we many times recommend to people, companies, that they code business development. You know, people are very controlling of, if I go down a particular groove, that whatever I uncover is mine and it's only mine and no one can ever hear it, see it, da 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 da. There's very little anymore that's I mean, everything is transparent. I mean, you can Google mostly anything anyways. So the reality is we've often encouraged companies to co-develop, co-business develop. It's not very often talked about, but when you take the power and the energy and the innovative platforms of two companies, probably three is the most you could do it with, because then you get into all sorts of organizational dynamics that just get bizarre. But with two partners, you can sometimes find some interesting results in business development. So we also tell people, don't shy away. If someone comes to you with a potential proposal on business development, and you go, well, what's the catch? Well, the catch is now you got the power and energy of two strong organizations looking at similar possibilities, and it might even open up even more. So don't shy away from that.
Collaboration.
Collaboration, yeah. Well, it's more than collaboration. I mean, collaboration is great. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of value in that. What I'm suggesting is a multi-dimensional business development lane where two organizations run business development at the same time together. Now, again, there's issues that have to be careful of with, antitrust issues if they're in the same industry. So I'm not suggesting that at all. What I'm suggesting is two companies that may, on the surface, may not look like they have much in common. They're not in the same industries, but can develop mutually at the same time business interest together because of what they together bring to the marketplace.
So being open to all sorts of possibilities and opportunities, regardless of what you traditionally think would help your company.
Yeah, there you go.
That the opportunities could appear where you least expect them.
There you go. That's it. Well said.
So in times like this, why would this be a really great time to invest in your organization's business development?
Well,
what is unique about this time that could be beneficial?
Well, I think because the risk of doing nothing is you go out of business. I think, to answer your question, Nicole, at this time is the best and only time to be looking at business development, because if companies don't look at it in the right strategic way now, they never will, and they won't succeed. They'll clearly just wither and fail. This is the chance. I'm gonna say chance of a lifetime is probably a little exaggerated, but I will say that if not now, when? Because now the world is looking for all sorts of answers on literally everything from, with the environment, with healthcare, with products, with, sustainability. It's endless. And so if companies fail to look at it now, they're looking at their own demise within 5 years, because if they can't do it now, they'll never be able to do clearly pure, good business development.
Like everything has been shaken up so much that now is the time to be creative.
Yeah, now is the time. Yeah, you look at the world and it's endless, the possibilities for virtually everybody in every company. And not because of the pandemic, but what the pandemic has done is thrown a lot of things that we thought were true to not be true. And it's actually focused the world, I think, in some cases, on all the right things, like sustainability, like different sources of energy, on and on and on. And the ripple effect to all of those is endless for companies, no matter what they do, what they produce, what they think they can produce. And it's not a one-to-one relationship anymore. It's one to maybe millions of possibilities.
If you like this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe. See you next time.